Hello everyone. Let me welcome you to another presentation of nations, today about Malta. Firstly, let me give you some invites from the ESN. So tomorrow, quiz night will take place again, so do not hesitate to join as a regular player, or even if you haven't played it before, it will be for sure very entertaining. On the 1st of April, you will be able to find out how Czechs celebrate Easter. You will hear about all the awkward, funny, and unique traditions that will be followed by making decorations too. And as you have probably heard before, the language classes take place, so I would like to remind you that it is still possible to join these. So if you're interested, then check out our Facebook or WhatsApp groups. Also, we are looking for some volunteers that will help us introduce their countries with its habits and culture to local high school students and share their Erasmus experience with them. So you can join this project called Erasmus in Schools any day between 12 and 16 April, and it will take place online. So for more info, check the Facebook and WhatsApp group. And in addition, we are also looking for a presenter for the presentation of nations next week. So if you'd be interested, then let us know. And the last but not least, the ESN Spring Run Challenge will start on Thursday. So warm up, download the Strava tracking app, and follow the instructions shared in the Facebook and WhatsApp groups. So that is all for now from me, and let's jump for the presentation of Malta then. Enjoy!
Hello, we're two students from Malta, and my name is Liz. And
I'm Craig.
Craig, and we're going to be talking to you about Malta. So first, I'd like to show you a short video with some clips of the islands that we're going to present. Okay.
So basically, Malta it's a small island in the middle of the Mediterranean, and we're going to show you this video just so you get a better idea of what we're going to be speaking about during this presentation.
And for those of you who don't know where Malta is, it's a tiny dot underneath Sicily and right in the middle of the Mediterranean. Okay, so as we said, Malta is a very small island in the middle of the Mediterranean. If you can see on the map, it's right underneath Sicily and it's very close to the north of Africa. So here are some statistics if you're interested in seeing them. Basically, it's less than 100 kilometers just below Sicily and almost 300 kilometers above the north of Africa. It's made up of three different islands. The mainland island is Malta. We also have a smaller sister island called Gozo and a little island in between them called Comino. Comino, only one person lives on Comino, but Gozo is well inhabited. Altogether, it's around 500,000 people living on the island and it's around 316 square kilometers.
Sure. So Malta has a very rich history because of its very important position in the Mediterranean, due to it being just a little bit underneath Sicily and right above Africa. It's kind of just bang in the center of the Mediterranean Sea. So it was very important for a lot of people who tried to colonize it, as it offered a very strategic position for trade routes and stuff like that.
Okay, and if you can see, as Craig mentioned, we have quite a rich history. So starting at the very beginning, we started with the temples of Malta, which are one of the oldest structures in the world, even older than the pyramids and Stonehenge. And then we move on to some periods which truly shaped our history. The Romans and the Arabs were two of the most important conquerors in the BC and the early AD. And then we move on to other kingdoms like the Kingdom of Sicily, and later on the Knights of St. John, which had the Great Siege in Malta, which was one of our biggest victories to date. We also had a few years under Napoleon, and then after 1800, we were under the rule of the British until only 46 years ago, and that's when we became a republic. Okay, so in the first slide, I showed you that we had the temples of Malta, and these are called megalithic temples. They're megalithic because they're built with very massive stones. They're a marvel on how they still stand today. They're scattered all around Malta. It's not just in one place, but it's actually all around, including in Gozo. And the oldest one is in Gozo. In fact, it's called Gigantia. This is what the temples look like today. They actually have a lot of structural elements which are fascinating. They have portal frames and entrances, and they also have a very distinct shape. An aerial view of the temples will show you lots of circular apses. They're like rooms, and this is what led to them being able to stand for thousands and thousands of years after they were built. Okay, so following this, we also have the Hypogeum in Halsafi, which is basically an underground temple. And it is thanks to this that we are able to know what the temples look like above ground, because we have this below ground. Okay, so after a lot of different conquerors, we can move on to the Knights of St. John. The Knights of St. John arrived in Malta in 1530, and they decided to stay in Birgu, because Birgu is very good location-wise to protect the Grand Harbour, where a lot of ships were coming in and out, which eventually the Great Siege as well came to show this. The first picture shows the Grand Master La Valette, who after the Great Siege decided to build Valletta. This is
Which is our capital city,
our
by the way.
capital city, yes. This is a map showing where Birgu lies right in front of the Grand Harbour, giving it an optimal viewpoint for any ships which come in and out and any attacks for the Maltese in this time. Okay, this is a picture of the Great Siege. And following that, the French ruler Napoleon came to Malta, only stayed here for 2 years, and then he was replaced by the British. The British brought a lot of goods to Malta, like, for example, a railway and a tram system, which don't exist anymore, but they did that. And we also had the first postage stamp during the time of the British. However, during this time, it was not all good. We also had the two world wars. In the First World War, we were basically a hospital. We were nicknamed the nurse of the Mediterranean, and a lot of wounded soldiers came to Malta to recover. And the Second World War was even worse, unfortunately. We were very heavily bombed during the World War, We received 154 days and nights of constant bombs, which is a lot of bombs for the Maltese Islands.
Yeah.
And I believe it's 6,700 tons of bombs in the Grand Harder
Yeah.
region alone, which
Just
is
just during July of 1942, 18,000 tons of bombs were dropped over Malta, which is more than all of London throughout the whole duration of the war.
of the London
Yeah,
Blitz,
that's quite
much more
quite
than
a
that.
crazy statistic.
So just to give you an example, this is one of the most beautiful theatres which we had in Malta. It's called the Teatro Real, and this is how it looked before, and this is how it came to look after the war. But as Maltese, we truly embraced what we went through, and we kept it as an open air theatre through our restoration works that we held in the capital. Okay, and we also received for our bravery a cross which we display on our flag called the George Cross. It's basically a commemorative gift to us to praise us for our bravery during the war because many, many people lost their lives. It is estimated that over 40,000 homes were destroyed during the bombings of World War II. Okay, and after all of this, the British gave independence to Malta in 1964, and Malta 10 years later became a republic. And a few years ago, maybe 16, 17 years ago, became an EU member state. And this is where we stand today. So, great.
So I now want to speak to you a little bit about what currently goes on in Malta. So can you change the slide? So I want to speak to you a little bit about some Maltese traditional food. So the Maltese food is very interesting because, as Lizzie mentioned before, Malta was always under a rule of somebody different. So our food is influenced by a lot of different kind of cultures. But at the same time, even though it's influenced by different cultures, there are a lot of common elements due to the produce that we find in the Maltese Islands. Typically, the food is very rustic, and it's kind of based on the seasons of seasons. Like, so for example, in summer there's a lot more fish obviously than winter, and us being an island, we usually eat quite a lot of fish. So the first dish I want to be speaking about is tufat al fenek. It's basically a rabbit stew. Usually comes in two courses. First course you've got like a like a spaghetti with a sauce and rabbit obviously, and then the second course is like a proper rabbit stew, which used to have with like potatoes and stuff. Um, and then we've got bracioli, which are also known in English as beef olives, which is a really weird name in my opinion. But basically, what they are kind of like Mexican tortillas, but instead of using a tortilla, you use beef. It's pretty good, not gonna lie, very rich with like a nice tomato sauce, and like they're stuffed with a lot of different things. Everybody kind of has their own twist on them. Hobbs with Zayt is probably the most iconic Maltese snack. I think every worker takes this to school or to work with them. Basically, what it is the Maltese traditional bread, which is known as a ftira, and then it's kind of stuffed with conserva, which is like tomato paste, tuna, um, lettuce, our traditional cheese, jbena, olives. I mean, everybody likes it in a certain different way, and everybody makes it differently. But if you come to Malta, I would definitely recommend that you try Hobbs bizzate. Bigilla is another traditional Maltese snack. It's like a broad bean dip over here. We can see it how it's served usually with galletti, Maltese water biscuits, something that I thought were not Maltese actually. And when I came to Czech Republic, I had a rude shock because I can't find them anywhere, which is quite annoying. And then you've got as well with like again with Hobbs bizzate, so just like bread with conserva and olive oil. So then this is our traditional cheese. It's called the Jvena. Basically, it's meant to be made from sheep's milk, and it comes in a number of varieties. You can have it fresh, or else they also dried the Jvena, and they also add things like pepper and chili. There are many different variations of it. Pastizzi is probably one of our most iconic snacks. You can get it from like practically every village has their own snack bars and multiple snack bars. They're called pastizzerias, and these pastizzi are very cheap, very oily, but very very good. I think you can get one for like 30 or 40 cents, and they're delicious. Basically, they're like a puff pastry stuffed with one of them stuffed with peas and one of them stuffed with ricotta.
And
Really,
nowadays they make variations such as chicken or even for Easter, they made a variation of our typical Easter dessert, which is a figolla, which we'll have soon in the
Yeah.
presentation. But they stuffed figolli with ground almonds.
And they also made them with Nutella as well, but I really don't find them good. I like the traditional just peas and ricotta. Um, oh yeah, this is a bit of a weird one actually. It's called babouche, which are basically snails. So you can go, you can get the snails from the garden, like, and you cook them in a stew. A lot of people find them disgusting. I personally find them delicious. They're really good if you kind of get over the texture. Again, something weird you probably won't try in many places except maybe France, but like ours are very different to the
Ours
French
are very
style.
earthy.
Yeah. Ah, yeah, as I spoke a little bit about fish. So basically, there are a lot of fishmongers in Malta, but if you want to get the freshest fish, you go down to this locality called
Marsa.
Marsashlock. And in Marsashlock, every Sunday, there's this massive fish market where they get all of the fresh produce that they would have caught either the night before or in the morning. And it's beautiful. You just go, and there's around, I think, 100 different sellers, all selling different kinds of fish, all at different prices, and it's a really it's a lovely Maltese tradition that we have. Like, so I remember going with my father, going buying some mussels, buying some other fish, and then going home and cooking it. Like, oh yeah, these are some famous Maltese exports. So these are things that like we produce in Malta and we send them off to other countries. Twisties is one of them. It's like our version of crisps, really good, like a cheesy snack. Kinney, which is our soft drink. Not many places make it like this. It's kind of like an orange soft drink. It's really good, but not like Fanta. It's very particular, like, you know. And then you've got Maltese potatoes, which are famous worldwide. We have the best potatoes in the world, if I might say. um, so what's the next slide? Oh, there we go. So these are some Maltese sweets. There are a lot more than the ones I managed to fit into this slide, but it just gives you an idea. That's what Liz was talking about before, the figolla, which is usually served during Easter. The one next to it is called the prignolata, which is typically served right before Easter. And then you've got like the cannoli siciliani, which are very influenced by the Italians, but the Maltese have their own style of making them. And imaret, which are like fried date pastries. Really strange, but really good.
Delicious.
So now I'm going to be speaking to you a little bit about the traditional architecture of Malta. So basically, what's very unique about Malta is that no matter who conquered us, they all had to build with the same material, which is Maltese limestone. So it's not like when you go to other countries, they typically build with different colors of bricks or different stones. In Malta, up until only recently, every single new building was built with limestone because it was the only medium for building available to us. In fact, concrete was only introduced to the Maltese Islands not very long ago. Maybe it's been like 60, 70 years. So it's very interesting to come to Malta and look at all the different buildings and kind of notice the different time periods, but they all use the same material. It's something very unique that you can only see in Malta. So in these photos here, you can see the traditional Maltese balcony in our capital city of Valletta. And I think the other photo is Mosta. These are very typical Maltese terrace houses. They're very colorful, like, so kind of every single resident puts their own flair on their house by um, by kind of painting their balcony a different color. It's very unique and it's very nice to see. Yeah, you can see some more examples of this in the next slide. Yeah, and the slide after this, basically, Malta is a very religious country, at least uh, it's meant to be. So there are massive churches in every village. Like the minimum is one church per village or town, but in a lot of places it's like three. In this slide over here, you can see the Mosta Rotunda, which is actually the third largest dome in the world. It's a beautiful building. I believe it was built by the British. Again, it was built with limestone, so you can kind of see all the different styles using the same stone. An interesting fact about this church, actually, um, there was a mass once during the Second World War, and a bomb fell through the roof of the church during a service from a German bomber plane. And the bomb didn't explode, and it's actually still there today. It's quite a crazy story because the likelihood of a bomb being thrown out of a plane and not exploding is very, very low. So this is another Maltese church. Wait, photos not loading. Another Maltese church known as Tapino in Gozo. I think this was built when the Pope came to Malta. It's another massive, beautiful church. What's interesting about our churches is they're all built in very different styles. If we go to the next slide, for example, it differs quite a bit from the one we've just seen.
And the fun fact about the churches of Malta, it was said that there are 365 churches for 365 days a year. So if you ever want to spend a year in Malta, you have a church to visit every day.
Yeah, I think there's probably more than 365. It's
Definitely
crazy.
more.
So the next couple of slides are some more photos. Again, this is an auberge built by the knights. Again, the same use of limestone, just it looks different to everything else. There's a very, very monumental building. It's now used as our Castilla, it's called in Malta. That's kind of like where the home of the Prime Minister, exactly. Yeah, the next slide shows a little bit how what I was saying about how every town has a church, and kind of like the town starts from the church and just grew outwards. You can see kind of like you've got this big church and a lot of small buildings.
Everything leads to the church.
Exactly.
Like, all roads lead to Rome, and Malta, all roads lead to the church.
Yeah, and you've got these like narrow, winding streets which are quite unique and beautiful. This is actually a building in Valletta, our capital city. It's a recent building. It's actually quite controversial because a lot of old people didn't like it because they felt it was too modern for our capital. It was built by the famous architect Renzo Piano. In my opinion, it's a beautiful building. um, yeah, this shows the next slide shows a little bit of Valletta as well. So you can see all of like the low-lying buildings again, everything built in limestone. So it's quite a unique effect. So now Liz is going to speak to you about the language.
A quick note about the language. In Malta, we actually have two languages. So one is English and one is Maltese. While English is very international, obviously, Maltese is very interesting because it's only spoken by people in Malta or Maltese foreigners. But it's quite different to European languages because it's a Semitic language. It comes from Arabic. The main components of Maltese are Arabic, Italian, and English. Around most of the grammar comes from Italian, half of the vocabulary comes from Italian, and few of the more new words come from English. So, for example, if you want to say computer in Maltese, it's computer. But a lot of old words are practically the same as Arabic. The numbers are in Arabic. We also have our own take on the alphabet. We have a few letters which aren't in the English language and a few letters which are a modification of them. For example, the GH, which is called the Ein, is practically silent in some cases, in other cases it's a H. So I can't really explain the language in one slide. But basically we have our own letters, we have our own alphabet, but it's the only European language in the EU to be a Semitic language.
Yeah, so now we're going to speak a little bit about some Maltese traditions. One of our biggest traditions in Malta is the village feast. So basically, every single town or village has their own feast according to the patron saint. Again, this is meant to be a religious festival where kind of like they go running around the statue, but for the most part, it's just a bunch of people getting drunk in the streets.
10 in the morning.
Yeah, in the name of the Lord, very important. So then in the next slide, we can see another two Maltese traditions. So we've got Bitsilla, which is like Maltese lace making. It's a very unique craft where they kind of make tablecloths and these little, I don't know how you know how to describe it. Yeah, yeah.
They're like small placemats.
Yeah.
Ornaments on.
Typically very expensive because they take so long to make each one. You can see from the photo they've got like these weird beads and they just take forever to make it. And the next photo is something known as Jostra, which is something that usually occurs in the village feasts of the localities which are near the coastline. So basically what they do is they get this massive wooden stick, as you can see over there, and they coat it in lard, so animal fat. And basically the aim of the game is to run to the very top of the pole without slipping off and grab the flag. It's quite funny because basically nobody ever manages to grab the flag, and all you see is a lot of people falling into the sea after slipping. Sometimes you see some people actually get hurt, like because they slip and they fall awkwardly on the pole. It's quite amusing. So there's another Maltese tradition known as the regatta. Basically, the regatta occurs in like the area of the Grand Harbour, so the three cities, so Birgu, Bormla, and Isla, and Valletta. Basically, it's like rowing. I don't exactly know from where to where they row, but I believe it's on Easter Sunday usually, the main one. They row multiple times a year. All right, cool. You learn something new every day. Um, so there's another Maltese tradition, Carnival. I think Carnival happens worldwide, but over here it happens right before Easter. Not right before Easter, right before Ash Wednesday, exactly. So basically, yeah, it's kind of similar to a village feast. A lot of people getting drunk, and these large, colorful floats, which are pretty cool. Like.
There's a whole procession. The whole streets of Valletta would be one after the other with these
Yeah.
large, colorful floats. Sometimes they move, sometimes they sing. It's amusing.
So now a little bit about the geography of Malta. Malta is quite unique because it's a very small island. Like as we mentioned before, it's not a large place, but the terrain is very interesting because it's a lot of hills, and on one side of the island you can see it's kind of you've got these cliffs, but on the other side of the island it's relatively flat next to the coastline. So if we go to the next slide, you can see, so this is on the west side of the island. Again, a lot of high cliffs. You can see all the different layers deposited by the limestone. And then the other side of the island is the complete opposite. So it's a lot of beaches. It's a lot of low-lying rocky coastline. So we've got these two contrasts. In fact, the east side of the island, the side where you can actually access the coastline, is a lot more developed than the west side, because typically a lot of traders and stuff would want to, which where our settlements grew out from, wanted to set up obviously next to the coast so they could kind of have commerce coming in from the sea. So the next slide is a bit of a joke about our public transport because it's horrible. They're always late. Yeah, now I want to show you a little bit of a video about Valletta, which is the capital city of Malta, and it's also a World Heritage Site, a UNESCO site. It's a very unique city. It was built originally by the knights, but again, after the knights came the French, and after the French came the English, and after the English obviously came the Maltese. So there are a lot of different things to observe in Valletta. Again, it's like an open air museum. You can spend a week there, and you will not even scratch the surface of how much history it has to offer you. So that was a little bit of a short video about Valletta. As you can see, it's an interesting city, because especially the fact that it was built with a very ordered grid, and which is something that you don't see in most Maltese villages. In fact, most Maltese villages, as I said, it was kind of built from the church and it grows outwards. Everything's very random. But in Valletta, they built it with a very strict kind of master plan, and there's a certain beauty in the order and the repetition. So now we're going to show you another video about which was the previous capital city, Mdina, and I think the capital city changed in like 1500, so obviously nobody remembers it as the capital city. But basically, it's similar to Valletta in the sense it's a fortified city. However, it was built by the Romans and the Arabs. Again, you can draw certain similarities, I guess, to Valletta because of the use of material. However, Valletta is much larger and is a little bit more modern than Mdina. So let's play the video.
for the Kahoot, I just share my screen like my normal screen. I can't. It's sharing right now, so I just like okay.
So that was a short video about Mdina. And now we're going to move on to a little bit about our beaches, because obviously with Malta being an island, it's very popular for tourists due to the easy access to the coastline, and also the fact that the waters are so warm. Basically, during the summer, the average water temperature is around 26 degrees, which is pretty hot, but it's a lot cooler than the actual air during summer, which is like, I think it goes up to like 40 degrees. It's crazy, man. It's not a fun place to be unless you have air conditioning. So this beach is called Raml al Hamra. It's called Raml al Hamra because of its like reddish sand, even though it looks really orange in this photo. When you see it in person, it's actually really really red. It's a beach in Gozo. And then this is another beach known as Ain Tufiha. Um, Again, we've got a very varied terrain in Malta. You can see kind of here these clay slopes and the kind of small sandy beach at the bottom. But we're not only limited to sandy beaches, we've also got a lot of rocky beaches. This one is called St. Peter's Pool, which is very nice for people who want to kind of jump from high places because the water is very deep and very clear. And then here's another kind of photo of the coastline in Pembroke, which is again another coastal town in Malta. We've got a lot of those. Also, very popular in Malta due to the water is scuba diving. Basically, the Maltese islands kind of like, again, it's a very important position in the Mediterranean, so we get a lot of fish which will be traveling from Africa all up the way to the north of the Mediterranean. So you can see a lot of fish in Malta, and also, which is really popular, we have a lot of wrecks, both from the war and kind of one sunk recently, as attractions for scuba divers, which kind of form artificial reefs. I'm personally a scuba diver, and it's one of the best things you can do in Malta. So so this is the other one of the other islands that forms part of the Maltese archipelago. This one is known as Comino. It's a very small island. Only one person lives on it. In fact, this guy called Salvu. But basically, all there is on the island is beautiful beaches and the hotel. But apart and this tower built by the knights. But apart from that, there isn't much else. Like in fact, in the next slide, um, you can see. Blue Lagoon, it's called. It's known as Blue Lagoon just because of the kind of really clear blue water. And if we go to the one after it, you can see what a small island, in fact, Comino is. It's basically just a small patch, but you've got the beautiful blue sea. So then Gozo is the second largest island in Malta, of the Maltese islands. Sorry, it's a bit hard to word. Again, Malta's kind of like, I like to describe it as Gozo's like Malta, but 30 years in the past, because a lot of development hasn't kind of caught up to Gozo yet. In Malta, obviously, there are a lot of modern buildings coming up, but in Gozo, somehow, since there isn't kind of a direct link, you have to go by ferry. It's taken a while for the construction to catch up with it. So I really recommend that if you are in the Maltese Islands, go to Gozo, because it's like a different place. It's beautiful. You can see some kind of photos of Gozo here. This is known as Witelasri. It's kind of, and the next slide is known as Dweira, the inland sea, which is like basically you've got this again lovely blue sea, and you've got that small tunnel in the back, and you can swim through, and you come to the open sea at the back. Again, some more photos of Gozo. This is the capital of Gozo, Victoria and Cittadella. Cittadella is kind of like a smaller Mdina on the top of the hill, on the top of a hill in Gozo. And this is just some photos of our Maltese traditional boat known as the Lutsu.
Okay, so that's it from our presentation. And if you want to join us on a Kahoot quiz, I'll share the...
Yeah, so thank you for a lovely presentation. And I guess that now I have to add Malta to my post-pandemic travel list. Yeah, but before, Liz and Craig have also prepared a quiz for you, as they already mentioned. So you can win some prizes from ESN again. So open the Kahoot and try your luck.
Okay, so the pin is 8391880.
Yeah. On mine.
Mine
Okay.
is not working.
So speak into mine. Cool. Yeah. So last minute to join, guys. Will be starting it off at 2040. So I think we can start. That's all right.
Yeah, all right, so I'll press start. So, good luck.
Yeah.
So the first question is, what is the capital city of Malta? And the options are Gozo, Valletta, St. Julian's, and Mdina.
So the next question.
Well done.
Oh, everyone got it right
Except
for one person. Good job, guys.
Okay.
So the next question. In which body of water is Malta found? So the Atlantic Ocean, the Pacific Ocean, the Mediterranean Sea, or the Adriatic Sea? So in the photo that you're actually seeing right now, you can see the Azure window in Gozo, which unfortunately has now fallen due to weathering and erosion. Kind of, it got destroyed. It's a real pity. However, it's still beautiful to go swim there.
Okay.
All right, let's move on.
No, we're not in the Atlantic, unfortunately. Okay. Malta, the best, really loves Malta. So the next question is, what is Gozo? So is it a Maltese island? Is it a republic? Is it a city? Or is it a village? Okay,
Nice.
very good.
So we can move on
No
to the
one
next
thought it was a
question.
republic, unfortunately. Okay.
True or false? So Malta has been a republic country since 1850. True or false?
Okay,
nice.
good.
So next question.
Okay, I don't know what this means, but good job.
So how many islands make up the Maltese Islands? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 4? Or is it 3? Nice, guys. Good
Well
job.
done.
So next question.
So is it true or false? And Malta forms part of the EU. Okay,
Nice. Good job,
You're
guys.
paying attention.
So next question. Another true or false. Since Malta is part of the EU, the currency used is euro. True or false? Nice.
Okay. So the next one, Malta's 3 islands are called Malta, Gozo, and Comino, Rabat, Gozitina, or St. Mary's Island.
Nice.
Nice.
St. Mary's
St. Mary's
Island.
Island doesn't even exist in Malta, just to let you know.
So we move to the next question.
Okay, so the next one.
What is the closest country to the Maltese Islands? Is it Spain, Tunisia, Libya, or Italy? Nice.
Nice. At least no one thought Spain. That's
Yeah.
enough.
It's actually it's close, very close to Italy, but it's also very close to Tunisia and Libya
Yes,
as well. So it could go both ways. So the next question is, which one of these is not a traditional Maltese food? Pastizzi, spaghetti bolognese, stuffata al fenech, bebbush. So one of these is an imposter.
Okay,
Nice.
good.
So next question.
What colors are the Maltese flag? Is it red and blue? Is it green and white? Is it white and blue? Or is it white and red? Okay, okay.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah,
yeah.
that's what we said.
Yeah, you had the answer right next to the PowerPoint.
So
So
the
good job, everyone can see.
next question.
Okay, the next question.
What language is spoken only by Maltese people? Is it the Maltang language, the Maltish language, the Maltese language, or the Malta language? Nice.
Close enough.
Nice to see the Maltang language. What about?
Maltang is a good one.
So
Okay,
next
so the
question.
next question is the Maltese language is a combination of which languages? Arabic, Italian, and English, Arabic, German, and English, French, German, and English, French, Italian, and English. Well done.
Nice.
Everyone paid attention to my slide.
So next question. True or false? The population of Malta is over 1 million people. True or false? Nice.
Nice, nice.
So next question.
Was Malta bombed in World War II? Only for one day. It was heavily bombed. It was not bombed. Yes, unfortunately, it's correct. Okay, I'm getting high scores here.
So next question. What is this tradition called? Is it called Jostra? Is it called Running Man? Is it called Justu? Or is it called Shaham? Nice.
Shaham means fact in Maltese, so that's why it was inspired. Okay, so the next question is what is the average sea temperature in summer? Is it 26 degrees, 16 degrees, 30 degrees, or 20 degrees? Okay, it's not as hot as 30.
You'd boil. So
Okay, the last question now.
another true or false. Scuba diving is popular in Malta. Is it true or is it false? Nice. Everyone got
Well
that
done.
answer correct.
So
Let's see who
the
took.
final scores. In third place, we have Mar. Well done.
Second place we
Please.
have a lot of stars, and in first place we've got Kukana.
Kukanya. Well done to all of these, and thank you for participating,
I hope you guys had fun.
and thank you for paying so much attention to our presentation.
So, congratulations to the quiz winner, Kukanya, I think. And yeah, please, if you are staying in Brno, then let us know about you by contacting us by message at Instagram or Facebook, and you'll be able to pick up the prize when Panda Point is opened. And that's it for today. And again, thank you, dear Liz and Craig, for making us a nice Maltese evening today. And I hope we will see each other next week again. And I want to repeat that if you're interested to present about your country, then don't be shy and let us know. So enjoy the rest of your evening and stay safe.